I haven't done much with the scan and trace, just a little bit at the very beginning, mainly because my skills with pen, pencil, or Sharpie are fairly minimal. But I thought I'd go through it just to get a little practice as we lead up to Maker Faire. I'll be in San Mateo for the Bay Area Maker Faire in May. And part of the demo will be using that scan and trace. Hi, it's Mary and McCarewitz. I have a pre-release Glowforge, and today we're going to do a trace and cut of just a simple test drawing. Upper right quadrant of the design space is the trace button, and we have the image in the bed of the laser. Draw a square around it to highlight what you want to select, what you want to trace out. And you can use the control arrow key or on the Windows keyboard or the command arrow keys up and down to work on the contrast. So if you notice these little black dots, that's a little ketchup that was on my fingers when I drew this. And the paper itself is a little wonky, a little wrinkly. There's reflections and highlights on this normal copy paper. So I'll go up with contrast and see how the smudges and specks get picked up. Quite a detail in that. And now we'll go back down each press of the arrow key a little bit until that last bit of smudge is gone. Notice the T gets a little thinner when we take the contrast down. Not much, just a little. Okay. So then you click on the outside that you want cut. Just presuming you're going to be cut something out. And you'll have two operations. So I'll just click on the outside line, outside of this outer line. And we have, this will turn into two cuts where I clicked out. So we have two operations. We have a double cut that's on the outside of this paper, of that square. That'll be two cuts. And then we have engraving here. Not what we want to have two cuts here. So let's go back and trace again. And we'll get on the very first highlight what we want to scan. Take the contrast down just a little bit. I'm going to click on the very outside of this outer square. And that will leave us one line on the outside as a cut line. And as it processes, it turns it into a cut, manual cut, and a manual engrave. And there is, at this point in time with the user interface, no way to change that second one into a cut. And we can convert that outer line into an engrave also. or converted to a score. So those are the two operations. I'll zoom in a little bit and you can see as I highlight the first operation, it does the outside of the square, and the second operation would be an engrave. Notice it's a little bit bigger than the image we have. If I were to, let's change that focus to 0.002 and notice now it's over the original drawing. See it? So that's something to think of when you're scanning. You have a piece of paper in there, then you're going to put it over something else. You might have it a little bit different size because you're going from a scan from a flat piece of paper with minimal thickness to a 1/8 inch piece of plywood or less than an 1/8 acrylic. So that's just something to think of as you go from scan to print. And I'm not going to cut this out, but we're going to go back and notice I have two operations saved in the design catalog, or two times where I've done that, and it's in there until I delete it. Let's do another trace from the start, and this time we'll adjust the contrast down just a little bit, and then we're going to go on the inside of this line. We're going to cut that, and now we have, this will process two cut lines, an outer, or one on the outer line, one on the inner line. If we click on this, that deletes that black and the black outer area to engrave. And you see we have a line here, and notice no outer line to engrave, but we'd have a square inside a larger rectangle. So because those automatic line selection. Do it again, see other ways to come up. So let's click on the center of this line. What happens? It double clicks and takes out that thick outer line, so that wouldn't be engraved. We can click on the outer line, see what happens. Nope. Get rid of that. We can click on this line. We don't want that. Actually, we do want that. We want to get rid of the cut rather than the black engrave. Nope, it just keeps getting rid of what we don't want to get rid of. Click on that black, click on that center. Now, what do we have? We have this outlined. See what happens there. So we have vector for the letters plus an engraving for the letters. So it put a vector around the outer square and a vector around the letters, and then engraved here, but it's not going to obviously engrave these black lines which are still on from the piece of paper. One last time. Trace. Select what we have here. Change the contrast a little bit. And we want to have an outer line. And the rest we want engraved. And we'll put some cardboard in there. And that cardboard is 1.132. And that makes a difference. So you're putting in the initial focal length for the lid camera as you place this. I'll give you an example of how it makes a difference. I'll put the design over this corner and notice that it lines up fairly well on the edge down there. Zoom in a bit. And now we're going to change this to let's change it to 1/4 inch. And it's going to focus differently, and notice that the image is outside of the cardboard. So when you have your own materials to put in, don't have the proof grade code, knowing the thickness of the material to get the surface for the focus is fairly important. So put that back in, or the thickness in, and now we set our power and speed for the cut is 30 or 40 power, and 35 speed works pretty good for me. And engraving we'll just do 1% fastest speed and higher res at 340 for the lines per inch, and it's good to go. So we'll press print, and head moves over, and it's doing the calculations for the tool path, I assume, preparing the print, and designed is prepared, and it'll come up with the image of the tool path and give a pretty good estimate of the time. Not just an estimate, telling you how much time it'll take for the operation to go. 33 minutes, because we have fairly decent resolution at 340. This image is about 4.5 by 3.5 inches. So I'll press the print and we'll go. Actually, the print I'm going to add into this video is one I did earlier of the same scan. Let's go to the bed camera and press print. I got a little stick that I use to press the print button across the Glowforge, across my desk. I got the Glowforge across the way. So it's cutting out where we had said cut out. That's the fastest, and then the engraving will come along here shortly. And notice it's going to engrave the thick border. Don't know if that's what I really wanted to do, but that's okay. Get a little dizzy with the focusing here. Is finishing up the engraving, and it'll be cool to see the surface of the cardboard basically and vaporize that top layer of cardboard and laid bare the inner core columns. So it looks pretty cool. I know been some artwork with that uses the lines of the inner core of cardboard as the contrast, or the what do you call that? Anyway, to 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 make up the dark and the light of the drawing. So that's pretty neat how that works out. 30, how many minutes was that? Altogether, what was it, 30 something, 29 minutes, 37 minutes. Anyway, that's a pretty good long time to make a 3.5 by 4.5 medallion. I used a higher resolution on the engraving. That looks really nice when you're doing it on wood. Could have had a lower resolution on this cardboard, but we'll see how that works out once we do the reveal. So that's the trace, and I'm sure there are some more aspects of the trace that I could do. Let's switch to the monitor, and you can see that we're almost done with the print. Another 55 seconds. It's got this last engraving of the top border ready to go. I did clean the bed. If you notice the clean bed, and now we're back to the scorch marks. This is about 2 weeks worth of work. I haven't hit it too hard, but it cleaned up very well, but gets charred fairly fast. Doesn't make any difference with the cut that I'm aware of. That idea of flashback from the surface is interesting. That's why you don't want to blow through the material as hard as you can. You'll get the flashback on the bottom material. So you just want to make that cut, just make it through. So here is the basically, well, not basically, it engraved the top layer of the cardboard and took it out. And you can see that it leaves the inner layer of that cardboard there. Went through. So, did the exterior cut. Notice a little bit of scorching on this side from the engraving, but nothing bad on the bottom, if you can see that. And you can see how the top layer was out and left the inner corrugations in. And that's that. And back to the monitor. In the bed, we're getting a fuzz because I don't have the lid up. Anyway, that is a test of tracing and clicking and seeing what gets selected and what isn't. The summary is, at the moment, you have two operations. One is a cut and one is an engrave. And getting to the point of what you want to cut and what you want to engrave is a matter of selecting, clicking on the blacks and the area of the line you want processed. So some more exploration to do on this. And thanks for your time. Thanks for watching.